Welcome back. In this video, we will be going over question 5. So, question 5, believe it or not, but in my opinion, question 5 was, I think, easier than question 4. But then again, what's hard and what's easy is quite subjective, so I'll just let you guys be the judge of that. So, in question 5, what the question was asking us to do is to have a display menu that displayed this entire thing. And so you would have had to register a car to input the driver's license, the registration number, input all of those values into an array called car registration and also an array called driver's license. And then once you've done that, you would have had to then display that into the output, and that was basically it, right? So here we have an array. Again, the array is declared globally. An array called car registration, it has 50. An array called driver's license called 50. By the way, for some of you guys who are thinking and can't really remember the question itself, 50 is not just an arbitrary value or an arbitrary number. 50 was a value that we had to write down. It is a value that they told us that we need to set our array to equal to. So, and then we have driver's license, and then registration number, right? And then we have integer number of cars. All of these values are declared globally. And then we have our void register car function, right? Come down here, integer options, and then we have our do while loop. So this is our while loop. So while options is not equals to 2. So what is option 2? Option 2, it's when you have exited the program. So here, the user would have had to then say whether they want to enter in number 1 or number 2. And if they say number 2, then, well, we shouldn't continue to loop. We should just stop looping because the person has said that they don't want to continue with the program. So we should stop looping. So, and then we have a switch statement, switch options. I'm not too sure if they explicitly asked us to have a case statement, but nonetheless, I did include a case statement. But I think it would have been at your best interest to include a case statement if they had not explicitly asked you to. So you have case 1, right? So case 1, what are we doing? We're registering a car. So the void function register car, that's where it's going to then come into play. So let's go down into our void function, the register car. So we declared an integer count variable. And so we said do what? Do while the count variable is less than the number of cars. So the number of cars, right? It's declared globally. It's an integer, right? Declared globally. So the person is then going to have to input what the number of cars is. So, excuse me, this is where we'd have gotten the value for the number of cars. How many cars are you registering? You would have then said that, okay, this is the number of cars that I am registering, right? And so whilst the count is less than the number of cars, it should do the following. It should increment count, and then it should ask the user to enter the driver's license for the car. And so the count, we just, writing down 1 or whatever it is. And so then the user is then going to be inputting the driver's license number. The driver's license number variable is declared globally, right? Here it is, declared globally, as well as the registration number, declared globally. All of them are strings. And so we do the same thing for the car registration, and then we get the registration number from the user input. And so just like the previous question, question 4, array car registration, when we're now inputting the values into the array, we just say that count minus 1 is equals to registration number. And then we say that array driver license count minus 1 is equals to the driver license. So, if the count is at number 1, 1 minus 1 is equals to 0. So, well, array car registration at the index 0 should be equal to registration number. So it's only going to maybe say loop for the length of the number of cars. So if you say that you want to register, say, 5 cars, then this thing should only really loop 5 times, right? And then after that, you are then going to display the cars have been successfully registered. So that is how your program, honestly speaking, should have looked. So if you guys can notice, it's just switch statements, loops, and then just arrays. So that's all you would have actually had to do. So a lot of the bulk work would have had to happen in question 4. So let's just try to run the program. Okay, so let's just say register a car. How many cars would you like to register? Let's just say 2. So enter the driver's license for the car number 1. So I know some of you guys are going to be too specific. So let me just go here. So I think this was the actual values that we had to use. So this is my sample output after I've just done my entire program. So this is the actual values that we would have had to use. But for simplicity's sake, and to not be too particular with the program, I'm just going to enter in whatever values that I feel, uh, enter chart to delete. Okay, I'm going to be entering whatever values that I feel I want to actually enter in. So we're then going to be, inputting that and then inputting, a whole bunch of numbers. The calls have been successfully registered, and so that's all we would have had to do. Say number of cards is here, car number 1, car number 2, car number 1, car number 1, car number 2, car number 2, and that is it. They didn't even ask us to display our different arrays. They just asked us to do that, right? So that's how your program honestly would have looked.